Welcome back to On Texas Basketball. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by Gerry Hamilton and a very special guest coming off of his first Red River rivalry win over Oklahoma and his 500th career victory. Texas men's basketball coach Sean Miller joins us. Coach Miller, thank you again for the time and for joining us here on the channel.
My pleasure. Great to be on with you guys.
Coach, let's jump right into it. I want to get to something you mentioned about Dailyn Swain after the Oklahoma game. You were running down that there are some great players in the SEC, but that perhaps no player means more to his team this season than Dailyn means to your team. We could go a number of different ways with this, Coach, but you mentioned it. You've known Dailyn since he was 16. What is the point of pride for you to watch this young man grow from a kid who, when you knew him, was barely able to legally drive a car, and now he's developing into one of the better high major prospects in the country?
Well, number one, I'm very grateful that I'm able to coach Dailyn, not only here, but we were together, obviously, at Xavier for 2 years. The one thing that I would tell you guys about Dailyn is his family, they really allow you to coach Dailyn. We recruited Dailyn and got to know his family. His mom is a wonderful lady and very, very supportive of Dailyn. But, in terms of just holding Dailyn accountable, being able to coach him, talk to him about the different things that he needs to do to be a better player. You have to fix this. You have to improve that. We've gotten nothing but support from Dailyn's mom and Dailyn's family and his support system. And I think when you're in lockstep a lot of times with a young, talented player who's really listening, who's smart, who's talented, and then his own support system is very supportive of the place he's at, the coach that he has, and the way we're doing things. It really is amazing how development is, I don't want to say easier, but to me, you can go to higher levels. Like the ceiling is much, much higher because we're all in sync. And I think Dailyn really benefits tremendously from the family that he has. And I think just the closeness in a good way between his family and what we're doing, we're really in lockstep. The second part of my answer, Jeff, is, look, I'll back up what I said about Dailyn in that his meaning towards our success and our team, he leads us in virtually every category. And you think about assists and steals, defensive rebounds, rebounding, points per game, field goal percentage outside of modest, and you just go through it. I think it's him and Cameron Boozer that lead their own respective teams in the most categories that's playing college basketball. So that really backs up my statement. And obviously in the last couple of weeks, just the individual games he's had really speak for themselves.
I want to follow up real quick on that, coaches. He was 4 of 25 from three his freshman year. I'm guessing you put a little limit on those attempts, right?
Right.
Talk about how hard he's worked and how far he's kept. It's really in SEC play. He's showing a lot more confidence shooting contested threes against high-level competition. That growth in him as a perimeter player, how proud are you of him and that work he's put in?
Well, he has put a lot of work in, and, he started, Gerry, so you have a good understanding. Like, if you go back to 10th or 11th grade, Dailyn was he didn't shoot threes. It wasn't that he couldn't shoot or you didn't like the way his shot looked. He basically ignored that part of the game. And he did it really almost through his entire time at high school. And I think that's one of the reasons why he wasn't recruited at a higher level coming out of high school, because he really didn't shoot the three. But when we watched him shoot the ball, and in particular, if you pay attention to his free throw percentage,
yes,
he's always been a good free throw shooter. And I think that's the first sign that there's more to work with, that he has an upside, and that if given the time and the repetitions, that he could become a good shooter. And he's put the work in. There's also stages where you put the work in, and then all of a sudden you have to get used to shooting them in the game, which you don't really do. Actually, for Dailyn, it starts in practice, where you have to shoot them in practice. And we took about a year and a half right there of just, no, we want you to shoot open threes in practice, shoot threes. And then he started to do it, make a few. And then all of a sudden it led to the game a little bit more. But among the many things you'll love about Dailyn as a player, that will never be the thing you love the most. And I think that's the other part of him, is self-awareness, that he's not, his life isn't banking on making threes. That's not what he has to do for our team to win. That's not what he has to do to reach his goals. But improving that area of his game, no doubt, that affects everything, and including his future as a basketball player. But he's on the right track. I do think there's different levels still that he'll eventually get to. And when he gets there, I think you have a complete player.
So, Coach, it's going to lead me down a question for you. You guys are 8th in the college basketball in offensive efficiency. And you have one of the best SIDs in the country. So, Scott, you may know this from Scott, but the last time Texas basketball was that high in offensive efficiency was the 07-08 team with DJ Augustine, Damian James. Those guys were young. That was an Elite 8 team. But when you kind of constructed this team and you went into the season, I mean, did you foresee a team that was averaging could average 81 points per game on the SEC, on the road in the SEC? Because that dog will hunt in this league. But kind of what did you see offensively, and how far has it come from what you saw it could be at the start of the season?
Yeah, no, Jerry, great question and observations there. I think first that, I don't want to jinx what we're doing because we have, what do we have, nine regular season games left. But you're right, we have a lot of tread under our tires, on our tires right now. I mean, we've played the best. We've been at UConn, we've played Duke and Charlotte. We're halfway through the SEC conference home and away games. And I think all of us, whether it's our team or other teams, really have solidified what we can and cannot do, what we have to improve, and in the strengths. And you're right. I wouldn't have anticipated that we would be maybe as high. I believe in what we do offensively, and I certainly believe in our players. But it's interesting because if you follow me as a coach, there's a few things that have really withstood the test of time for me. And in recent years, it's really been like high assisted field goals, right? We move the ball and, we're really reliant on each other to score the ball. And if you look at our team this year, that's really not how we do it. And I'll go back to what we've talked a lot about in the off season with you guys. Jerry, a lot of press conferences you were with me on, I would say something like time is not on our side when you look at the months of November and December. And that's unfortunate because some of your marquee games, Maui Invitational, and some of your big non-conference games, they rest in those 2 months. But what I meant is, like, it takes a little time to figure out what's best for Tremont Mark, both in what we do already, and then what do we have to tweak or change to allow him to be the best he can be, and what combinations of players play really well together, and what combinations of players, even if they're good individual players, aren't efficient on the offensive end, when they're together. So that just takes a lot of time, more time than I wish it did. But I think if you look at us, that's why it took us a little time. We've hit our stride. And I think we're way, way sure of ourselves right now on offense. A couple things we've really established. We get to the free throw line at a high level. Modest and Dailyn really have a lot to do with that. And I think when you can get to the free throw line consistently, that's a big stat that works both on the road and at home against good teams.
Sean, I did want to talk about Modest from this standpoint. I know you've been pretty vocal about fouling throughout the season, but is it the challenge of getting guys, and Modest just came to mind to me for this, getting guys to play physical? You can go down the list of teams you guys have played that are really physical teams, to match teams' physicality without fouling. What kind of challenge is that on a night in, night out basis in a league like the SEC?
Well, that's a huge challenge, and especially with young players, and that's what Modest is. He's young to the United States, only been here for 2 years. And there's a big difference. If the three of us went into Lithuania and we lived and we tried to make ends meet and we competed on a court, there would be some things that are going to take us a little bit of time to get used to, because it's not apples to apples. There's some differences. Language is one, right? So it takes time, and I think that Modest has gotten better, but he's still working through, the difference in style, the difference in what to do and what not to do when it comes to the game of fouling. Because, look, he gets fouled as much as any player that plays college basketball, so the spotlight is always on him. That means you have to be even more disciplined and smarter when it's your turn to defend. There are times to be physical, like you just mentioned, and there's times to let it go. And there's times that you have to show your hands and go vertical. And there's times when you have to do a lot of work with your legs and your chest, your torso, and not your hands. And we've had a hard time, truth be told, with Modest in that area. He's better than he was, for example, when we played in the Maui Invitational. I wish we could make just a huge stride. And I think these next 4 or 5 weeks, not just Modest, but our team, can we defend without fouling? That's what we did against Oklahoma. That's what we did in the first half against Auburn. So if you think back to that game, what was the difference? Up 8 at Auburn. And then in the second half, it got away from us. There's one huge discrepancy in the game. Not a lot else changed, but what really changed is their free throw attempts and us. Again, it's not 8 fouls that we're trying to get rid of. It's the 2, 3, or 4 undisciplined fouls that we can correct, that we are working hard to correct. And, that's 4 free throw attempts. That's up. They didn't get into bonus as early. There's a huge swing when you can foul less in college basketball. And I think that's plagued our defense, and we could be a better overall defensive team. I've told our guys on a daily basis, if the number goes in the right direction defensively for us, a lot of the things that we're hunting and going after will come true. But we're only going to go as far on this path as our defensive improvement allows us.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to follow up on that. In the SEC, tremendous basketball league. I think there's 10 teams projected to be in the tournament right now for whatever that means on February 2nd, right? There's a lot of ball left to be played. Are there 2 teams that are so close to similar that y'all scout that you would say, okay, they're virtually the same? Obviously, pieces are different, but is every game and every team different? Are there any 2 without saying that you say, okay, these guys are pretty much the same, even if you don't want to say who they are? Or is the league that broad that there's not really 2 that are the same that you scout and play?
Yeah, Jerry, I haven't played against every team, keep in mind, not only this season, but because this is our first year in the SEC, I can't answer it completely because there's a number of teams that we haven't faced yet. But what I'll tell you is a couple of things really stand out for me and really our coaching staff being new to the SEC, and that is the pace and the athleticism of the conference in general. I don't care the team, you pick it. They're playing with great pace up and down, and they just have athletic talent at really across the board. They're bigs, they're bench, they're guards. I think the other thing, and maybe this is just a one-off this year in the SEC, but virtually every team we've played has had a terrific backcourt or one individual guard that you're like, he could be an all-conference player. He's one of the best in college basketball, or he has a future beyond the SEC and the NBA. Like you think of a team, and obviously you're going to think of a player. Tennessee with Gillespie, terrific point guard, runs the show, scores, their leading scorer, can get 25 or 30 virtually any night, but yet he's the point guard. You look at Alabama's backcourt. Those 2 guys, going into our game, they were combining for almost 40 points per game. So I think the dynamic backcourt and guard play, the pace, the athleticism, and I think the last part is one similarity between the best teams in our league is just their elite offensive rebounding.
Yes.
Some do it, more physically with their bigs. Others do it with their wings and guards. But just the rebounding component in SEC, when the shot goes up, a lot happens. And again, I go back to that athleticism that I referenced. And I think that's something that for us, as we build Texas, as we try to rise in this league and make this program great, we cannot lose sight of the importance of rebounding in the SEC and just athleticism in general.
Sean, you've got a lot of business to handle right now in front of you, but you've got a 4-man high school signing class with Austin Gooseby, Bo Ogden, Joe Sterling, and Coleman Elkins. All 4 of those guys, Coach, having really good, productive senior seasons in high school. What do you like collectively about this group of high school signees you've got?
Well, I think they have a great background when it comes to just competitive character. And what I mean by that is the family structure that they're from, they really support them both on and off the court. But all 4 of them have done a great job academically in high school. All 4 of them win. They're at winning programs, have won in their high school setting and travel team setting. Like they're in the biggest games in their state. They've traveled nationally. They've been internationally where they've played against great competition, but they're on the winning end of it. They're competing for championships. They're practicing the correct way. Again, those 4 guys play for really good high school coaches. If you go watch all 4 of them practice, they have real practices. They practice, they're held accountable. They're playing with effort every day. They're preparing to win. So I don't think you can overlook that in today's world of college sports, but especially when you're bringing in someone who's 18 or 19 years old as a freshman, because it's always been the most difficult challenge for a freshman, but it's even more difficult today because they're playing constantly against older players, not only in practice on their own respective teams, but in games and in competition. And that difference, I'll take you back to, we all at one point were 8th or 9th graders in high school, middle school. And when you saw that senior walk down the hallway, you were like, wow, he's different. He looks different. He's bigger physically. That's how I want to be one day. Well, when they make the jump from high school to college, and there's always a few exceptions, but that gap exists. So I think that them understanding how hard they have to work, being able to handle adversity, knowing their role, like self-awareness of this is what I have to improve on. I don't have all the answers. I know I have to get better in these areas, and that's why I came to Texas. And, I think the last part of that character is that this is a place where you have to embrace that name on the front of your jersey. Like, this is a special place. We're on this campus with world-class people and other programs. Vic Schaefer's program, they're trying to win a national championship. Sark, they're trying to win a national championship. Softball, volleyball, they win national championships. Baseball with Schloss. And we're a part of that athletic department where we're in charge of trying to become the best we can be and compete for the top prizes. So when you recruit these young guys, it's about their own dreams and goals. But I think that they have to have an affinity and appreciation for the University of Texas and what it means to truly be here. And that's why I go back to that competitive character. And, I feel like we really have that right when it comes to that group of incoming freshmen, and really look forward to being their coach.
Hey, Coach, I want to follow up on this because in 9 months, we'll be talking about the game will start to slow down for Austin Gooseby. By the way, Texas fans, if y'all watch this senior year, he is playing at the highest level I've ever seen him. And Bo Ogden and all those guys and Sterling, they're all shooting the heck out of the ball. Coleman Elkins is making threes right and left this year for Blair Academy. But so my point is, Texas fans and we'll be talking about when the game starts to slow down for these guys. I've never asked a coach this, but I'm going to ask the guy that's been the 4 Elite Eights and 8 Sweet 16s. When you coached your first game in 2004 as a head coach, when did the game start to slow down for you as a head coach? Because we always ask that question of players, but as a head coach, you guys coach every possession. Do you remember when the game started to slow down for you as a head coach? How long into your head coaching career that was? Because I know it's really tough at the beginning, no matter if you've grown up hoops your whole life or not. It's different.
Yeah. I mean, Jerry, the way I would answer that question is no matter how ready you are when you get your first opportunity, so that's like your first year as a head coach. We all would have some form of a track record to prepare us for that opportunity. But I think that first year is just everything's moving way, way too fast. In a sense, you're in that, I think, dilemma, maybe is the word I'm looking for, where you're just trying to do the best that you can, right? You're figuring things out on the fly, and you constantly have these conversations with yourself of, I thought I was more prepared. I thought I was ready. Should I have done this? Should I have done that? There's more second guessing just because you don't have the track record of being a head coach yet behind you. So I think the first part is like that first year. At the end of that first year, I think that you go back to this, and that is you truly have to be yourself. Like, we're all different. I look at Sark, for example, with great admiration. You could tell he's just like a brilliant football mind, especially like on the offensive end. And he has this incredibly cool and calm demeanor, during the game. And, you want to copy that. Like, wow, that looks right. That feels right. But if I really tried to be him, I would fall flat on my face because I'm not him. And, how I think or see the game it may look different to the outside, but that's what allows me to be the best that I can be. And so I think that at some point early on, what you try to get to is you have to be authentic and genuine. You have to learn. You have to grow. Certainly, you have to build your culture, but it all starts with like when people, the players, when you're every day around your program, you truly have to be who you are. And that's something that you don't figure out in year one because, again, it's like your baptism by fire, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I would answer that question. And then, obviously the truth of like really slowing down, the more games you coach, the more you learn, the better you get at it. There's no substitute for experience.
So, Coach, huge week coming up. You actually get 2 home games in a row.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so I wanted to let you talk about that, the fans, how great they've been here in SEC play in this kind of big week ahead for not only for the team and not only for you guys as a staff, but for the fans and how they can support you guys and how much that means in college basketball, because I think the home crowd is worth 6 to 8 points a game in college basketball.
No doubt, and we feel it on the road. Jerry, I think, at Auburn in particular, you felt the fury of the crowd. You felt it coming out after halftime when we were up 8 points, that in part they were rallying their team and just trying to inspire that group to be better and to make the comeback. And, you're playing against a really good group, but you're playing against the crowd. And in the Moody Center, look, there's no place that's better in this country. And I think that the heartbeat of the Moody Center is our students, and they have been outstanding. But, as the month of March is right around the corner and Super Bowl Sunday is about ready to come and go, now we're entering that last stretch of college basketball that's the most exciting. And these are really, really meaningful games. We have 5 home games left. All 5 are just paramount towards the goals that we have and the success that we have. And, giving us that home court advantage, being there, at the beginning of the games, early in the second half, all throughout, where that visiting coach and team are not only playing against us, but they're playing against an inspired, great crowd at a world-class venue. And we've had that. I tip my hat to our crowd. I think they're amazing. And the students are incredible. And I look for all of us to try to be our best. We have to give them something to cheer about, Jerry, and it starts with our performance and how ready we are for every game. But make no mistake, these 5 home games that we have left in SEC play, all of them have incredible meaning towards what we're trying to do in terms of having a good season and using this season to build for better days ahead.
Doesn't get much better than high leverage basketball in February and March. Coach Miller, once again, thank you for taking the time to join us here on the channel. And again, congrats on win number 500 in your career.
Yeah, Jerry and Jeff, thanks for having me on. Always great talking to you guys.
All right. For Jerry, for Coach Miller, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, hook 'em.